moves. And one move we do have to talk about, obviously 15th roster spot filled, but there's some breaking news going on right now. Damian Lillard, trade rumors. So you see that right there, him in a Celtics uniform. I like that. I like him in a Celtics uniform. But Daniel, you take it away. What are your thoughts on Damian Lillard to Beantown? Do you think this is possible, or what are your thoughts?
Well, let me start off by saying what it's looking like right now. We mentioned Tyler Hero, and your comparison to him in terms of the haircut. We could potentially see Tyler Hero having a new teammate, as the Heat are the leading team to get Damian Lillard right now. But nothing's set in stone yet. Anything could happen. And seeing him in that Celtics green, doesn't look too far from the Bucks. I think that's why I'm good seeing him on green. I think I like it. It's probably because like he's been in green before with the Bucks, and now like I've like settled in that like green is kind of his color. If it was like straight from Portland to the Celtics, I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about seeing him in that Celtics green. But now that he's been to the Bucks and he's out of the Bucks, I could see this happening. I don't know in terms of contract. We probably have to give up either white or brown. I don't know
I don't think so this is where I'm going with the contract. Milwaukee would, and this is what I'm seeing for rumors. Milwaukee would pay him everything he has still, so we could give him the minimum, and he could
oh,
stay in
because he
Boston.
still get paid, but he's still getting paid. I think it's twenty
Yes.
two point five mil for like the next 5 years, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. So if we could just
Yeah.
give him the minimum, which that'll just be a little bonus for him.
Okay. Now that you said that, I think I see that happening. We obviously we lose Holiday, and I think it's just a funny saga of events that's been happening. Like the Bucks get rid of Drew to get Dame, and then they lose Drew to us, and then we lose Drew, and then we get Dame as a replacement. I think it's such a funny little train that's been happening. And then Dame goes. I mean, and then Holiday goes to the Blazers, and I think it's just like a whole turn of events. It's like Dame leaves the Blazers, and like 3 years later, Holiday ends up on the Blazers. But yeah, I think I could see him in the Celtics green. I think he's obviously going to be helpful next season. And speaking of next season, I'm glad we're in the East because if we were a team like we're going to be next season in the West, I feel like we'd be more cooked than like ever. But I
Oh,
think because we're in the East, I could still see us at a playoff spot, at least a play-in spot, just because the East is so like easy, kind of. I wouldn't say easy, but like it's easier to manage than the West in terms of like ending up in the playoffs and like potentially getting like an easy opponent in the first round or something like that. I think we're more likely to end up in the playoffs in the East than if we were in the West because the West is like stacked like completely. So I'm glad we're in the East, and even if we don't get Dame, I think we could still see ourselves looking at a good playoff spot where Tatum is sitting on the bench on the first game of the playoffs or something like that, just cheering on for the team and seeing our guys out there playing. And even honestly, if we make the playoffs next season, I'd see that as a win.
oh
I'd
yeah.
see I'd see it as a win next season if we at least make the playoffs. I don't care if it's a first round exit. That doesn't really matter to me because Tatum's going to be back the year after. But I think seeing us in the playoffs next year is going to be pretty huge. But yeah, Dame is definitely going to be helpful for that goal.
Well, you look at him obviously suffering the Achilles tear as well with Jason Tatum. So you would be bringing on an injured Dame. However, if you sign him to a 2 year minimum, he could develop with Jason Tatum. They could both go through recovery. I mean, they both have the same injury. So you see them both rehabbing.
Honestly, this whole time I just forgot he was injured. I was talking about him like playing next season. I
Yeah,
was like, oh, he's injured.
I know, but
I
but
forgot about that.
yeah, but you see them rehabbing together and then coming back. And I think Brad Stevens made it clear like he has interest in Dame, but if they did bring in Dame, he sees Dame coming off the bench and Pritchard getting that starting role, which I completely understand. But I don't think Dame will be for that. So I feel like his option off of Boston will be like, I'm not too sure about that. But I'm all for Dame to Boston. I am one of the biggest Dame Lillard fan that there is out there. I love Damian Lillard. I was a big fan of him in Portland, and you mentioned it, Daniel, and I'm kind of mad at you because I wanted to mention it about that kind of full cycle. It's funny because you trade Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers for Dame. The Celtics acquire Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday ends up back with the Trailblazers, and then Celtics acquire Dame, and then I'm just saying, what if they win a championship with Dame? You look at that and you're like, huh, the Bucks missed out on 2 chips because they got 2 players. Like it's just a funny little tidbit to kind of add into there. But I would like Dame to Boston. Now, will it happen? I don't know. I'm not sure if it will happen.
Well,
Obviously, you said Heat being the top target right now, but I'm all
yeah,
for
and there's some competition because now that you mentioned it, I think the Heat, if he goes with the Heat, they have an advantage where he would be a starter for them, either late next year or the year after. But I think the Heat on the lead now because we have Pritchard. I wouldn't say in terms of like um roster positions and like I wouldn't say we need him, but he'd just be helpful to have. Whereas the Heat need him because like I feel like besides Tyler Hero and like Bam, they don't have like an actual like guard like Dame. I feel like they could really use Dame, and considering the fact that they're willing to make him a starter, whereas he's going to be on the bench for us, I think the Heat have a little bit of an advantage over the Celtics. But I think it could still happen considering the fact that Dame and Tatum are also close friends. Not as close as Tatum and Bam, but I think Dame and Tatum are close friends, and like you said, they'd be rehabbing together and like just making a connection where you could see them being on the court together 2 years from now with White and Brown, and I think that would just be a good team.
totally. But that's the thing where I'm like too is it's like, all right, that's what Boston has to provide. They have that. All right, Tatum has the same injury. We're very good at rehabbing players and developing them, and we could relive your career. And potential for you working out with Jason Tatum, you guys make a close bond while you guys are in recovery, and then boom, you go out there and win a championship. I feel like that's the best thing that you could give to Dame. I feel like that's the best one that you're like, all right, Dame, look, this is what we could provide from you. Like, we might not be able to give you the most money. We could bring you in on a minimum, rehab you, do a 2-year deal, test it out the year after when Tatum comes back and you come back, see where we go. And then, hey, look, if we win a championship, you get a championship. If we don't, then, and you're doing good in your career, you have the opportunity to go out and get another big contract. So I feel like there's limited risk with Dame too. And that's one thing I would look at and be like, hey, Boston looks appealing, and I actually did get to see Dame play in person, so I am a big fan of him, and I love to see him in Celtics green. I'm not sure what's the likelihood of that, but it's definitely a conversation to have. The reason why, if you guys didn't know too, what's the option of getting Dame? The Milwaukee Bucks signed Miles Turner, which is crazy. They signed Miles Turner, and obviously to offload Dame's salary, they waived him. You bring in Miles Turner, but this is a guy who wants to go on a revenge tour, and I don't see. I think the best revenge tour is going to Boston because, again, I'm gonna say this: I feel like Milwaukee and Boston have a rivalry, and that's a team where you could see Dame rehabbing and going against Milwaukee and beating Milwaukee. But do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do definitely. I think you mentioned it all there. I think we have a little more to offer than just money or like all those like important factors. I think we have more to offer than that. So yeah, if we do end up getting him, I think I'd like that.
Well, one thing I do have to mention too, and I already kind of said it, but this is a talk for sure to have, is Brad stressed that he would have Peyton Pritchard get the starting role. So does that mean Simons is like out of Boston now? Like, because obviously there's been a lot of rumors of the Celtics moving on from Anthony Simons. But if Brad's already said, I would love to have Dame come in off the bench, does that mean that he's really planning on rerouting Simons? I know there's been rumors about it, but what are your thoughts? I like Simons. I feel like Anthony Simons is on a year where the Boston Celtics are kind of retooling. He's a guy that could bring you a lot of scoring and help you win some basketball games. and I like the thought of having him with the Celtics. And I would love the fact of having him with the Celtics and Dame come into Boston too. That would give you Pritchard, Dame, and Simons. But does this kind of shut the door for Simons now? Do you feel like there's a trade already? Brad's already has something in mind completely. What are your thoughts along those lines? Because if Pritchard has the role, now you could see, all right,
Some
maybe
stats here about like the Celtics financially. We are 333,000. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 330, a little bit above 300,000 over the second apron, and we're a little over 12 million over the first apron. So like
okay,
we really only need to make like I think two more trades to be like completely safe for next season. I think those two trades, the names on those on the list is Niang and Hauser.
yeah,
I think those two are the names. I don't think we get rid of Simons just because he has a lot more to offer than those two, especially offensively. So when we're like talking about like putting names on the list, I think Simons is last on the list for like players we trade, just because he has so much to offer offensively. Now Niang and Hauser, I'm sad to say this. I'm sorry, Hauser, but I think
Baylor. Baylor
he
has his role. Baylor has
exactly that's what I'm saying. Like we already have a Hauser replacement ready on the bench, and Hauser in the past year has been doing a lot less than he did like 2 seasons ago, the season one that won the chip. So I feel like it'd be good with the right amount of time to get rid of Hauser, just because his contract is like what 10 million or something like that that
yeah.
we'd be getting rid of. I think that would help us a lot, and also George Niang would be another name that we could see being rerouted. With those two happening, if they do happen, I think Simon's future is safe on the team.
I,
And also, speaking of trades, I think Brad Stevens is not done. He definitely has something more in the books. Because of what I just listed. So yeah, I think Niang and Hauser would be those names. So Simons, I think, is pretty safe.
well, I'm gonna say this too. I don't think I think the only safe names that you could really say on the Celtics are Jalen Brown, Derek White, Pritchard, and Tatum. I feel like
Right.
those are the
That's
only
true.
safe names on the
Yeah.
team. I feel like Baylor maybe too because they're gonna want to develop him. He's a cheap guy where they have a lot of confidence in Baylor. But I you said it too. Brad is far from over with moves. And a lot of Celtics fans I know are frustrated about how the team's looking right now. It's like, oh, and I'm one of those fans. I'm like, oh, Josh Minott, that's what you're blowing away the free agency. You're like, hey guys, we brought in Luca Garza and Josh Minott. Woo! No, but Brad and I've quoted this from Coach AJ like 50,000 times, but Brad is 3 steps ahead of us right now. Brad's already thinking in the future. Brad has a deal and like has ideas in mind, and something is gonna be done. Something is gonna be done. So I look at that and can Simons potentially be on there because he has a lot of salary and it's a 1 year deal? Could you? Because I said this to Seamus too, and could you get 3 George Niang type players for Simons? That would maybe be beneficial. But like you look at Simons though, and he's a player who gives you a lot on the offensive side of the ball. But it's like, if Pritchard's already starting, like thinking about getting that starting role, where's Simons then? Is he coming off the bench? Like what's going with Simons? But obviously still a lot of questions to be had. But I like what you said, Daniel, that Brad is far from over with moves.
Yeah, and just another move made like 50 minutes ago. This is more for the G League and more for the Summer League roster. Are you familiar with the name Kenneth Lofton Jr.?
Yes, I am. Hold on. What? What about him?
He's G that has just been added to the Celtics Summer League roster, according to League Source. So we could potentially see him make some sort of like deal with the G League. But yeah, I like that name and I like that he's been added to the Celtics Summer League roster. Could potentially mean something big for him coming up next season. I'd love to see him in that green. I think he's good. He just hasn't had the opportunity for both from the Grizzlies and from the Sixers. But yeah, ever since he got drafted to that Grizzlies team, I was like, wow, this guy seems kind of nice. But yeah, he was just added to the G League, sort of summer league roster. So yeah, I'm gonna be watching those games and looking forward to seeing him on the court. But something about Dame that I'm just about to read. Um, League sources say that the Warriors, Celtics, and Lakers. This was 4 hours ago, by the way. Right now you'd be adding the Heat to the conversation. Are known to be among the many teams that would have interest in doing a deal sooner rather than later. The question is whether he wants to sign with a team now and rehabilitate while under their care, or wait till next summer to reassess the situation. The Bucks, who will have to operate with Lillard's money clogging their books for the next 5 seasons, are banking on this latest roll of the dice paying off. So Lillard right now is a decision to make. He either signs with the team now, whether it's the Celtics or the Heat or the Lakers or the Warriors, or he stays without a team for the next year, um, rehabs, and then comes back to the league. If that happens, we could potentially see a better chance of him coming to Boston, because by then Tatum's back. Hopefully, we'll have more money to work with, and we can then sign him on a vet minimum, maybe, or something like that, to get him on the team and get him being a high volume scorer off the bench.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dame. However, like you could see, all right, what can he give you from the Celtics? Is he gonna be just a little bench piece even when he comes back? What is his ceiling when he comes back? But uh, thank you for breaking that for us too.